Welcome to all in your YouTube channel NCERT e-teaching. I am Dr. Kailash Meena, going to continue the discussion from class 11th biology chapter number 1, the living world. And today's topic is diversity in the living world, and we are going to learn about evolutionary tree of life. So before going further, it will be significant to visit the learning outcomes from this section of this chapter. So the learning outcomes for you students are diversity in the living world and the evolutionary tree of life. The basic understanding of these things, plus you will be able to understand that how we name living things. Before we start this topic, we need some basic understanding of these three questions, or we must ask from ourselves these three questions whether we are able to answer these questions or not. And I answered these questions in my previous video. Let's again revisit them. The first question was what is science, the second was what is biology, and the third one is what are the properties of life, and this topic we have discussed in my previous video of the same chapter. So this is again the brief introduction of scientific method, how we move further scientifically to understand any topic in biology, physics or chemistry or any other branch of science. Now the properties of life which we have discussed in my previous video of the same chapter. Let's briefly go through those properties. All living things share 5 basic properties passed down over millions of years from the first organisms to evolve on earth. The number 1 property is cellular organization. Number 2 is metabolism. Number 3, homeostasis. Number 4, growth and reproduction. And number 5, heredity. Now, and if you want to learn more about these properties of life, you can watch my previous video of the same chapter if you have not watched yet. And one more thing which I also conveyed you in my previous video, that you must go through the chapter number 7 of class 9 science, which was diversity in living organisms, before moving further, because it is always useful to have or to revisit previous knowledges so that we can understand the new topic in detail better. So this diagram is showing the diversity in the living world. We see whether we are seeing plants or animals or insects, lizards, anything, we always encounter the diversity in the living world, and this diversity is so bizarre, so huge, that it seems impossible to study them. It seems impossible to have generalized ideas of living organisms. So if we want to study in our biology curriculum these living organisms, how we can study? If you want to study one by one these organisms, one lifetime will not be sufficient to study them. So what we do is that we simply categorize these living organisms, or we simply make groups of these living organisms for ease of study, and we are not making these groups randomly. We make these groups by our understanding of these living organisms, by observing, by studying the characteristics of living organisms. And this categorization is based upon the similarities and differences of living organisms, and we make several groups. So let me discuss one analogy first, then we will have a brief idea of classification. So let's consider this. This is a student which is a boy and studying in class 11th A in KV Valsura school. You consider this thing. If you want to know about this boy, we need to go to Kendriya Vidyalaya INS Valsura first, and then we can study one by one all the students. Then we will come to this boy, and then we can identify what are the similarities with other students of this school, of this boy, and what are the differences. But if we are able to know the hierarchy in the school, for example, our school have three major groups of students, which are primary, secondary, and senior secondary. These three major groups are there in our school, and primary means class 1 to 5, secondary means class 6 to 10, and senior secondary means class 11 and 12. So it is clear that this boy of class 11th A KV Valsura we can find in this senior secondary group. I hope it is very clear to you, because you are now you are studying in school and you can understand this analogy very clearly. Now we are moving further. We make two groups in our senior secondary students, which are science and commerce. And then in science we have again we have two groups, class 11 science and class 12 science. So we can find that class 11th A biology, because we designate 11th commerce as 11th B and 11th science as 11th A, 12th commerce as 12th B, and 12th science as 12th A. So now it is clear that that boy will be found in class the stream science, the class 11th A. Again, although we have no such groups, but for ease of study, for analogy, you can have one more group in class 11th A science. We can have two more groups, boys and girls. Then where we will find that boy? Of course, in class 11th A boys. That boy will be in class 11th A boys. Again, if you do not want to have this type of groups, we can again make class 11th A into four groups. We have four houses: red, green, yellow, and blue. And imagine that boy was in the blue group. So, and one more thing, that we have one large group in our school, which is KV Valsura. KV Valsura. All students of KV Valsura, from primary to secondary to senior secondary, are divided in four groups, and those groups are blue, yellow, red, and green. It means we can find red group students in all classes, yellow group students in all classes, green group students in all classes, and of course blue group students in all classes. Why I am giving this analogy to you? Because you all students are going through these groupings. So you will able to see these groupings. So now I can classify this boy which was studying in class 11th A science, which was of course a boy and in blue group. So if someone asks me about, okay, and that's the name of this boy, let's say it is Gaurav. So if you want to describe about Gaurav, when you meet his family, they will say that, okay, Gaurav is our kid, Gaurav is studying in this class, Gaurav is playing this game, Gaurav is Gaurav studies at that time, Gaurav's habits is that, this is the routine of Gaurav, and these are relatives. But if you ask the principal of Kendriya Vidyalaya, he will say that, okay, Gaurav is studying in class 11th science and he is in the member of Blue House in our school, he is studying science curriculum. And if you ask his peers or his friends, they will say, okay, Gaurav is studying in our class, we study in class 11th A science, and we are the member of Blue House, or we are the member of Red House, he is in the another group. So for this one boy, we have so many descriptions based upon who is seeing him, who is observing him, by which criteria. So if we want to group anything, if we want to classify anything, we need some criteria, we need some basis. So there must be basis for classification. So I wanted to give that idea to you. And one can say that this boy Gaurav is a member of Blue House in Kendriya Vidyalaya INS Valsura. This is also true. One can say that this boy Gaurav belongs to senior secondary section of our school. That is also true. One can say that Gaurav is a student of class 11th A science of Kendriya INS Valsura. That is also true. So one boy or one girl or one student may be member of several groups. This I want to convey here. So Gaurav is a member of class 11th A boys, Gaurav is a member of class 11th A Blue House boys, Gaurav is a member of the school Kendriya Vidyalaya INS Valsura, Gaurav is a member of senior secondary section of the school. So Gaurav may be included in many groups. These groups may be small or large. For example, the Blue House of Kendriya Vidyalaya INS Valsura will be very large group, comprising from class 1 to class 12th. And if I am saying that class 11th A science Blue House boys, that will be small group, because that is more specific. It only includes class 11th A, again only boys of Blue House. So the more specifically you are describing the group, the group will be short. So now coming back to our chapter, this analogy will help to understand the classification better, and no need to bother if you are not able to understand now, because the topic biological classification we will discuss in great depth or detail in chapter number 2, chapter number 3 and chapter number 4. So no need to worry if you are not able to absorb or grab the idea in single go. Let's have a brief introduction. So now we have far more greater diversity in living organisms that as if we are comparing from Kendriya Vidyalaya INS Valsura or any other school, but the analogy is going to help us. So if you want to classify these organisms, what we need? We need some large groups as well as small groups. Why large groups? So that we can broadly classify these organisms into based on few important features. For example, if I am saying that any student is a member of primary, senior secondary or secondary, what is the basis of this grouping? The basis of this grouping was the age of the student. If the age is from 5 years to 10 years, it will be a primary student. If it is from 10 to 15 years, it will be the student of secondary, of course, and after 15 years it will be the student of senior secondary, broadly or roughly. So we need some solid basis of classifying organisms or grouping things. Then how we further divide those groups? For example, if we are dividing senior secondary into two groups, science and commerce, we are taking the subject or the stream. And again we are dividing class 11th and 12th biology students on the basis of their age. Again we are classifying the students on the basis of their gender, boys or girls. Then we are classifying the students on the basis of their selection of house. Then we can also make some small groups also, whether they are wearing spectacles or not. So what are the grades? Although it is not, this type of groupings is not in there in our school, but you can imagine these further groupings based upon characters. So in the same way, if you remember, from class 9th we have classified these all organisms into 5 large groups, and the name of those groups were, let me show you, you please focus on the B, a 5 kingdom classification: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. So in our class 9th we have encountered these 5 groups which are called kingdoms. So kingdoms were the largest group when we were studying in class 9th. So by the same analogy, we have this type of grouping in living organisms. So as we classified our school into primary, senior, secondary and secondary stream, then houses, then classes on based on age, then sections, for example class 11th A or 11th B, then boys or girls, then again house selection. So in the same way we have classified from in our class 9th, the major or big group was kingdom, because the complete living diversity of the complete planet Earth have only 5 kingdoms. So you can imagine how big these groups are, kingdom. Next group was phylum. If you have remembered the Monera, if I take example of plants, then Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms, Angiosperms, these were the phylums or divisions. We have used the word phylum for animals and the word division for plants, although it is not restricted. Now you can use any word for anybody. You can use phylum for plants also, division for animals also, but yes, for our class 11th NCERT level we have used phylum for animals and we have used division for plants. If you remember the Porifera, Coelenterata, Annelida, Arthropoda, Echinodermata, Chordata, those groups were phylum for animals, and the Bryophyta, Pteridophyta were for plants. Then again we divided these groups into classes, then orders, then family, then genus, and then finally species. So for this 5 kingdom classification which we have studied in class 9 science, the largest group was the kingdom. The biological classification itself is not the topic for today. I want to convey one thing, that the kingdom is the largest group and the species is the smallest group. And if the group is small, it will have more features, it will include more features. For example, class 11th A science boy includes more details and it is a small group, but senior secondary boys or senior secondary section will include many students with less detail. So kingdom will have less details and large group, and species have very specific details. And for this, these categories are called taxons or taxa, or the plural is taxa. The singular form is taxon and the plural form is taxa. So these are different taxons for classifying living organisms. Now, so I hope you have studied, you have an idea why we need to classify organisms and how we can make groups. And let me clarify that when our parents, or when we see this world, if I talk about myself, then I always considered living organisms in 2 groups, plants and animals. So in that way, previously Carolus Linnaeus or Aristotle was the pioneers of our biology. So the Aristotle, who also considered the father of biology, classified all organisms into 2 groups, which was very reasonable, also quite reasonable nowadays also, the plants and animals. Then we classified 3 groups then we classified 4 groups, then we classified 5 groups, then now we consider 6 groups and more groups. Why this happens we will discuss in the next chapter. Here is only brief idea. As our knowledge increases, as we gather more information about living organisms, we classify them better. So there will be always more groups or less groups as per our understanding. So why previously only 2 groups, plants and animals? Because at that time the technology available, the information available was less. Then we understood that there is one another group which do not fit into plants and animals, which is called fungi, because it have characters like plants, like they do not move at all, they have cell walls, but they do not like plants because they are not autotrophs, they do not have chlorophyll. So that is why we made another group. Again we discovered microscopes. Then when we discovered microscopes, we were able to know there were small creatures which are single cellular, which are not plants, neither plants nor animals. So we classified them into Protista. Again, when we have more technology, we understood the cellular structure of living organisms. Then we came to know that some cells do not have any nucleus, they do not have a nuclear membrane. So again we classified them as Monera, as in class 9th. Now in this chapter, in this class, you will understand more about Monera. Then you will come to know about these groups, bacteria and archaea. Do not bother about these groups. I am showing this for only brief idea. We will continue the discussion on biological classification in chapter number 2, 3 and 4. So now I want to convey only the brief idea, the understanding of biological classification, not the great depth. Again, coming back to the previous slide. So Linnaeus or Aristotle, these great scientists classified living organisms into plants and animals. And again I want to convey one more thing, the naming of living organisms. Although it is a topic of our last slide, but I want to give one idea because it is very much related to classification. Let's consider our name. For example, my name is Kailash Meena. In some states, we write our name as Meena Kailash. There are many people which write their name in this way. So what does this indicate? For very light perspective, for the ease of understanding, I want to convey one thing, that my name is composed of 2 words. Sometimes we take this word first, sometimes we do not, but this name is composed of 2 words. Then this Meena, what does this name indicate? This word indicates? This word indicates a group of caste or surname, or a group of people. So by listening Meena, you can conclude that I belong to some category, I belong to some group of people which belongs to some geographical area or some culture, some beliefs, and this Kailash is my individual name. So if you focus on my name, if your name, then you can know that your surname tells some grouping of yourself, your origin, your culture, your language. It depends on what you can conclude about your surname, and that is why many people are curious about your surname. When I was child, I was a student, if anybody in my society, in my friends, relatives asked about my name, I simply tell that my name is Kailash. Then what they will say, आगे बताइए क्या हुआ, what is your surname? Because they wanted to know my origin, my language, my community, my group. So one part of our name signifies ourselves, and another part of our name signifies our community or our group. So naming of people in our society is somewhat slightly based on our groupings. So this is the exact same idea of living organisms also. We are talking about naming also. So naming is connected with grouping. It means biological classification, which we have studied in class 9th, chapter number 7, diversity in living organisms, is somewhat connected to nomenclature also. And if you remember, there was a section devoted to biological naming also, if you remembered. And I want to take your attention to other parts of your book also. You have studied about the improvement in food resources in your class 9th, if you remember, because it is not far ago, it is only 1.5 year back. So there you learned about Apis indica, the honeybee, or Bos indicus, the cow, Bos bibelis, the buffalo. So those names were scientific names, and these names were derived because of the classification. So the classification is related to the grouping of organisms, and biological nomenclature is also related to that classification. So we name organisms based upon their classifications. So simple. So here we are going to discuss the nomenclature also, and this is very important because, as I also mentioned in my previous video, that some topics have been removed in this session 2020-2021 because of the COVID situation. So only 2 topics we supposed to study in this chapter. One was from my previous video was properties of life, and the second one was scientific nomenclature. So need not to bother about biological classification. We must have only introductory idea about biological classification, and we are going to focus more on scientific nomenclature, although these both ideas are entangled or interconnected. So this I wanted to convey. So we will name living organisms according to their features, according to their groups. So now you have idea what is classification. It is a process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. So classification is done on the basis of some similarities and dissimilarities, and of course we are going to classify similar organisms into one group, and we are going to make different groups because of their differences. Now taxonomy. So taxonomy is a group of organisms as at a particular level in classification is called a taxon, as I have already mentioned, plural taxa. So a kingdom is a taxon, class is also a taxon, family is a taxon, and these are the taxa. So the branch of biology that deals with these groups or taxons is called taxonomy, and it also includes the scientific names of biological nomenclature. So here are the simple idea. This simple representation conveys very deep meaning of biological classification, that from the early times, from the time of Aristotle to modern days, why we are having different types of classification, why classification also evolving, why we are having new ideas, new types of classification. The simple idea is that because we are gathering more information, we are having a more clear picture nowadays for living organisms. So according to that picture, according to that information, we are grouping the animals and plants and other creatures into convenient groups. Again, it is going to change in future also, because of the advancement in technology we are going to get more ideas. And this bacterian archaea, if you are observing, this is a great example. I will take this example in the context of class 9th Monera. Then you are going to know how classification changes when we accumulate more information. Now this beautiful diagram shows the theme of this chapter, the theme of biological classification. Why we are it will be convenient to recall those groups. Let me name those groups which we have studied in class 9th, and those groups were Monera, Protista, Plantae, fungi and animals, and the sequence was Monera, Protista, fungi, plants and animalia. So this diagram shows a tree like structure or a branching structure. You can see these branching and common points here. So these common points are representing common ancestor. So I want to convey one more idea which you have learned in class 10th heredity and evolution, that we all are connected. We all living organisms shares a common ancestor. Actually we all are brothers and sisters and cousins, whether it is a plant, whether it is a fungi, whether it is any insect or creature, we all are related. But it depends when we shared our most recent common ancestor, that we are similar or dissimilar. So here we can see that based upon their similarities and dissimilarities, we are grouping these creatures and we are making connections, and this is called a family tree or evolution tree. Although this is not the topic which we are going to study, we will encounter this type of trees in the chapter 7 evolution in class 12 biology. So here I wanted to show this picture because we are familiar with these groups. So how we represent this group in the evolutionary way. So the one more thing I want to convey here, that in class 9 we studied about Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae and Animalia. These 5 groups from R.H. Whittaker in 1969 gave the 5 kingdom classification. Based upon that time of understanding, now we know that Monera itself, which have prokaryotic organisms. And what do we mean by prokaryotes? We mean that prokaryotic cells do not have nuclear membrane. So we classified all organisms without nuclear membrane in Monera. Now we know that without nuclear membrane there will be 2 type of organisms, whether bacteria or archaebacteria. So this archaebacteria we didn't studied in class 9th, but now we know that the kingdom Monera have 2 large groups, bacteria and archaebacteria. And one more thing, that these bacteria and archaebacteria, although they are prokaryotic cells, although they are single cellular organisms, although they do not have nuclear membrane, there are many similarities, but they have differences in their molecular assembly, molecular processes, and they are so different that nowadays we classify them as separate kingdoms. Although in our NCERT class 11th biology book we do not study about kingdom bacteria or kingdom archaebacteria. Why? Because the books were published in 2005 and it was not included in our syllabus. But yes, if you see the syllabus issued from CBSE, the latest syllabus, you will encounter the 3 domain concept. So we need to study about 3 domains, and that is why I am giving you this 6 kingdom idea. Again, you can see this diagram. So first was 2 kingdom classification given by Carolus Linnaeus. Again the 5 kingdom classification by R.H. Whittaker, which we have studied in class 9th, the Monera, Protista, fungi and Animalia, fungi, plantae and Animalia. And you see 6 kingdom classification which was given by Carl Woese, and here you can have 6 kingdoms. So simple thing, at this point of time you can understand only that the same Animalia, Plantae, fungi and Protista are there, and Monera is split into 2 kingdoms which are bacteria and archaebacteria. Now what scientists concluded, what we came to know was very interesting, is that these bacteria and archaebacteria, which are written as archaea here, I will tell you why archaea. So let me give one moment. So Monera is split into 2 groups, and then we can find 6 kingdom classification, although we need to study only 5 kingdom classification now. But why I am mentioning here is this, that after having more understanding, scientists concluded that this bacteria and archaebacteria are so different that the fungi and animals are not. It means if you are witnessed fungi in your tiffin box or in your food items or spoiled bread or spoiled fruit in your refrigerator, that fungi and you are not so different, but bacteria and archaebacteria are different. So they placed in different domains. What is domain? Again, let's see this taxonomical hierarchy. The biggest group was kingdom and the smallest group was species, and the group is called as taxonotaxa. So now we have one more group which is called domain. Above kingdom. So now we can say the largest group is not kingdom, largest group is domain, and the smallest group is species. So how we can fit this category? Now you will be able to understand this diagram. See, the diagram number D indicates that the large groups, bacteria one domain, archaea another domain, and the eukarya the another domain. So there are 3 domains of life. This is the new topic included in our CBSE curriculum. We need to study, and the questions are going to ask because the chapter is cut shorted and the few topics are deleted. So this topic remains. Bacteria, archaea and eukarya are 4 domains. Again we have 4 kingdoms in eukarya: protista, fungi, plantae, animalia, and only 1 kingdom bacteria and 1 kingdom archaebacteria. Sometimes we refer the kingdom as archaebacteria and kingdom as eubacteria and domains as bacteria, archaea and eukarya. It depends, but as we know that bacteria only having 1 kingdom and archaea is only having 1 kingdom, so sometimes we use these terms interchangeably. No need to bother is this load of information. We are going to deal with this information in chapter number 2, 3 and 4. Now let's have a quick look on these domains. We need to be familiar with these domains only, nothing else. So in this chapter we are going to have a brief introduction of domains and biological classification, and finally the scientific nomenclature. So domain archaea are some primitive bacteria which have some interesting features, and that is why they are classified as domain, the super taxon above the kingdom. So now we can say we have 3 domains, 6 kingdoms, and then further the phylum, class, order, family, genus and species. So these are the features of domain archaea. They are prokaryotic cells. We can find archaea in extreme environments, for example thermophiles, methanogens, the methane producing bacteria in guts of ruminants. So we are going to learn more about these groups in our next chapter. Again, the domain bacteria includes normal bacteria which we study in our normal life from class 7th to class 10th, when we studied about diseases and other features of bacteria. Those were eubacteria or normal bacteria. Kingdom eukarya, domain eukarya includes 4 kingdom which we are familiar from class 9th. One kingdom was protista, which includes normally unicellular organisms. Again kingdom fungi, which includes multicellular organisms with cell wall of chitin, and they cannot move, but they are not autotrophs, they are heterotrophs, and they are like somewhat they are like plants, somewhat they are like animals. Again the next kingdom was plantae, which includes all plants from Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms, Angiosperms. We are going to study in chapter number 3. And the final kingdom was Animalia, which is the topic of our chapter number 4. So need not to bother about the details. I wanted to convey only the simple idea that we have 3 domains and 6 kingdoms: domain archaea, domain bacteria, then 4 kingdoms in the eukarya. Now you are able to visualize this tree, what it is representing. It is representing the 3 domains of life, which is the new topic for us, the 3 domains of life, and this domain is composed of 4 kingdoms. So this is how new classification system is arranged. Now identification. When we classify organisms as bacteria, archaea or eukarya, or protista, plants and fungi, again plants as pteridophytes, bryophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, or animals as porifera, coelenterata, annelida, arthropoda, nematoda, Aschelinthes, Echinodermata, chordata. Again we classify chordata as amphibia, aves, reptiles, mammals. Again the classification goes further. Then we name the organisms. If you see the scientific names, they include only 2 things, the family and genus. This I wanted to convey, that when we talk about scientific names, these categories or taxons, previously polynomials names were there. So those names were very long, lengthy, and they describe everything about a organism. For example, the Gaurav. If I say that Gaurav Sharma was the name of that class 11th biology student, then what the polynomial name is like Gaurav Sharma studying in class 11th. He is studying science. He is opted for biology. He wears leather shoes, he wears this type of dress, he eats vegetarian food or non-vegetarian food. This type, if this type of name is there, then this long lengthy name is called as polynym. But this is not feasible for us. What we are using in our society normally, they as binomials. For example, my name Kailash Meena includes only two names, Meena Kailash. One name signifies my surname, which is about my community, my language, my origin, and second one is Kailash, is for myself, which signifies the identity of me. So this is why nowadays we are dealing with scientific names which includes only two words. So Carolus Linnaeus was the scientist who invented this type of nomenclature, and this the scientific name and rules for nomenclature are very important for us because it is included in our syllabus, and there will be definitely questions from this topic. So these are the scientific names. So first consider the scientific name, then we will discuss the rules. So Mangifera indica is the scientific name of mango, and you will encounter a load of scientific names in this first unit or our complete biology curriculum. So no need to worry, I am pronouncing some words, they may be familiar to you. So the scientific name of snake is Naza naza, the scientific name of frog is Rana tegrina, scientific name of human is Homo sapiens, scientific name of neem tree is Azadirachta indica, scientific name of banyan tree is Ficus bengalensis, scientific name of peepal tree is Ficus religiosa, scientific name of tulsi is Ocimum sanctum, scientific name of akda or madar is Calotropis procera. So there are so many scientific names. Every living creature is scientifically named. If you remember the name of bacteria, Lactobacillus, Escherichia coli, Apis indica for honeybee, or Musca domestica for domestic fly, Canis lupus, Canis familiaris, Canis lupus for wolf, Canis familiaris for dog, Bos indicus for cow, Bos bibelis for buffalo. So these are some examples of scientific names. No need to worry about that because we are going to study gradually, slowly in our biology curriculum. There will be so many scientific names. So scientific names, why we need to classify organs, why we need to give them scientific names? Because common names are so confusing. Common names, you can understand about common names in one language or one region, and if you are going to another state, another region, you will not able to understand anything about those common names. So common names of one organism will vary from place to place or religion to religion or language to language. If you take example of common sparrow or dog or any tree, every country, every part, every geographical part will have a different name for that organism. So that is why scientific community renames all creatures with following a procedure which is called scientific nomenclature, and these are the rules of scientific nomenclature in very brief, of course. So scientific names are generally in Latin and written in italics. So the origin of scientific names will always be Latin, or if the origin is not Latin, they will be Latinized. For example, the Azadirachta indica. So the azadirachtin was the chemical found in neem tree. So we formed the name in that way that it seems like Latin language, and it will be written in italics. You can see that Mangifera indica here written as italics. We cannot write in italics if we write in our notebook. So we will underline the scientific name. If we are writing in, if we are handwriting, handwritten names will be underlined separately, or if they are printed in books, they will be in italics. Again, the first word of scientific name represents the genus and the second word represents the species. How? The Mangifera indica, if it represents the name of mango tree, then Mangifera denotes the genus of the mango tree, and the Mangifera indica is for species. What are genus and what are a species? You need to visit this idea or class 9th chapter, this genus and this species. So first name will signify the name of genus, and the first and second both will signify by the name of species. This video is going to be very lengthy, but it is very important because this topic is very important for this chapter, and plus for the complete curriculum of biology, and this topic is very important for our examination point of view also. So let me quickly take the idea. When handwritten, the both words are underlined separately or printed italics, as I have mentioned earlier. First word starts with capital letter, whereas second one starts with small letter. So in this scientific name, if you paying attention, that Mangifera indica, the name of mango, only M is capital or uppercase, all letters are lowercase. So the first word of genus, second word of species, not itself, it is called specific epithet, but now for now you can understand as species. So in Mangifera indica, the Mangifera which denotes the genus, only M, it means first letter of the word is capital or uppercase and other letters are lowercase, and indica which signifies the name of species, all letters are lowercase. So very simply, the two word name which is binomial nomenclature of or scientific name of any living organism will contain only one letter capital, which is the first letter of these two words, all letters will be lowercase or small letters. So this is all about the scientific names, and it was given by Linnaeus or Carolus Linnaeus. The name was Carl von Linné, the scientist name, and he itself, his name modified as the scientific nomenclature. So if you see the Carolus Linnaeus, it will appear like the scientific name of any other creature. So this is the devotion of the scientist for the work he has done. So in my next video we are going to take the biological classification, and this is the topic for our next chapter also, the chapter number 2, biological classification, and the ideas we have learned in this video of chapter number 1 and my previous video of chapter number 1, we are going to revisit these ideas again and again in upcoming chapters, in upcoming topics, so that these ideas will solidify in you. So you need not to bother the load of information, these so many concepts in this chapter, in these videos, because I have myself learned these ideas in so many years by teaching and learning biology. So you, if you have any confusion, please rewatch the video and note the words, difficult words which you are encountering in this video, and it will be very helpful if you keep your NCERT with you, because the reading of NCERT is very important. Whether you are watching any video, whether you are attending any lecture, you are having any notes, reading of latest NCERT, and from where you can find a latest NCERT, by if you are not getting by shops, you can visit the website of NCERT, and then you must have a look on any chapter or any topic from the latest NCERT 2020 2021, and of course the revised syllabus provided by CBSE. So thank you so much for listening. We will meet the next chapter, biological